50 years ago this past May, the National Guard gunned down protesting college students at Kent State University, killing 4 and wounding 9 others. This attack on American citizens and college students was unprovoked and is the subject of Derf Backderf's amazing graphic novel Kent State, which I'm going to bring you a special review of today. So you may know Derf Backderf from his other nonfiction works like Trashed and My Friend Dahmer, which amazing works. I was really excited to read Kent State. So when I saw that it came out in May, it was one of those that I immediately ordered. And I was going to read it with a couple friends because I know they ordered it as well. And then it just sat on my shelf until this week. I'm reading a bunch of middle grade books to review for my website, for my YouTube channel. And I needed a break from Teenage Witches for a minute. So I picked up Kent State and I read about 50 pages of it last night. And then I kind of put it away for a minute. I wasn't ready to fall asleep per se, so I picked up the book and I started reading it in bed, and this was about like 9:30, and then I didn't fall asleep until after 11:30 when I had finished the book. I couldn't put it down. The majority of this book takes place in Kent State in Ohio over the course of 4 days, from May 1st, 1970 through May 4th, 1970, when the shooting occurred. I had heard of Kent State in the past. My dad was a Vietnam vet, and the protest and shooting at Kent State is linked because the protests were, most of them were about the war in Vietnam, and I didn't know anything else about it though. So using this opportunity to learn about a part of American history I took advantage of it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna learn about this finally. And you know what, I'm really happy that I discovered this love of graphic novels in my life, because I've learned so many things about American history, untold American history, in a medium that speaks to me, that I think I can relate to in ways that I might not have read. I wouldn't have read a 500-page book about Kent State. And I'm sure there are history books written about Kent State, and I'm sure there are, plenty of books written about the other, I'm talking about like prose, historical fiction books written about these things that have happened in American history, that those books would be really hard for me to get into. Just not that kind of student. I am this kind of student though. And when I read these things, and I know a lot of younger people, way younger than me, are not that kind of student. And they're not being taught these things in school. I didn't hear probably the words Kent State in my schooling in the entirety of, middle school, high school, or in college. I knew it from popular culture and media, but I didn't know what this was about. I didn't know that, our government troops shot college students from average age 19 years old, just unarmed students on a campus of a college. I mean, this story is absolutely crazy, but it's not, it's not surprising. I mean, we've seen over the past however many years, we've been dealing with the craziness happening in this country. And I'm not just talking about, 4 years. I'm not making this a modern political debate. I'm making this a commentary about power and government's use of power, and not just government, but people that have money and people that have power, and how they're allowed to abuse it and use it. It's about toxic masculinity. It's about what men need to do to be, tough. And this book brought up so many things that I had a hard time falling asleep thinking about all of these things rattling around in my head. It's an extremely well-researched book. The last 25 pages of this book are Backderf's source materials, right? He even goes, not just a bibliography or a work cited, but he goes through and lists page by page where he got the source for that information for that particular part of the book. It's extremely well researched, as are his other books as well. I mean, if you've read My Friend Dahmer, you know the same sort of thing happens in the back of that book. And if you haven't read that one, please read both of them. They're absolutely amazing. One of the things that really stuck out to me the most is, and there's an epilogue here, and it's not spoiling anything. I mean, all of this is public knowledge, but in the epilogue, it has Richard Nixon talking about him and the chief of state are discussing a riot that happened at Attica Prison, the Attica Prison riots, and he's talking about radicals, and this was from an actual recording in Richard Nixon's office, and he says, you know what stops them? Kill a few. Remember Kent State? And that's how the book ends. And how do you even, that's the president of the United States, right? I mean, and that's 50 years ago. I don't know what to say about it. It's disgusting and disturbing on so many levels, but important that we don't forget the idea that these things happen, they're happening, and that power corrupts, and that we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure not only we elect the right people in all levels of government, but that we make decisions that are good for humanity. Yeah, this graphic novel got me thinking all of that stuff. So if you want to talk about it, drop something in the chat. Let's talk about this book. It's brilliantly done. The artwork is Backderf at his finest. It's really awesome. The pacing of it, the way that he develops these characters in this book, that they're probably going to come into play in the final scene of this book, but you're worried, is this character going to live? Is this character going to die? And you don't know. And then the way the last chunk of pages unfolds is, it's tough. It's tough to read. It's tough to see, but it's important, and I think you should read it. Could it be in your classroom? Yeah, if you're a teacher, maybe upper grades, but this is a rated R book. There's language, there's violence. This is real shit happening in this book, and it's reality. So I can't say enough good things about it and enough terrible things about the situation. So check it out. Kent State, Derf Backderf. This book is actually done by Abrams Comic Arts. So please check it out. And hope you enjoyed this review. And I really look forward to hearing what you think of this book.